Thanks again to Bango for sponsoring the growth track here. We've got 4 sessions coming up, and the first of which is by Dale Lawrence of Bango himself, talking about how to scale your in-app purchases. So a round of applause for Dale. Here's your clicker, here's your clock.
Great. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, it's great to be here. I know some of the sessions have overrun and everyone's looking forward to lunch, but hopefully I can give you some interesting insights that are going to sort of keep you all engaged and you know, give you some really great value for what Bango do and what we are. So yeah, my name's Dale Lawrence. I'm the head of the client solutions team at Bango Audiences. And what I'm going to be talking to you today is how to scale your in-app purchases using purchase behavior targeting data and also the insights that we're in a unique position to give. So the past 2 years have sort of turned app marketing on its head. The Apocalypse is sort of our tongue-in-cheek campaign that we run, talking about how the app industry is really struggling as a result of some of the IDFA changes, cookies being deprecated, you know, Google Ad IDs are also going to be deprecated. So we're now sort of living in an apocalypse where apps are really struggling and paying users are harder than ever to find. So the data for targeting UA campaigns has reduced and decreased, and when you monetize via in-app purchases, this is obviously incredibly important to try and overcome and maximize internally. So just on some data that we've sort of seen. So 95% of users who play your games will never actually make a payment. So they'll only be monetized via in-app advertising. So the elusive sort of 5% are the ones that do make the payments and create more than 80% of your revenue. So targeting those in-app purchases and the users that we know have made a payment are incredibly important to maximize performance. We ran a survey which sort of said that 60% of app developers agree that the recent changes have made it harder to acquire new paying users. And I think this has sort of been represented through a lot of the advertising on social platforms over the recent years. Obviously, IDFA has been deprecated, and there's more changes coming, which, you know, according to Meta, resulted in a $10 billion loss in ad revenue last year alone. So, you know, this is really big for the platforms that are used to acquire users. It's big for the app developers because they're not spending as much. And also the costs for acquisition have increased significantly. So as a result of this, sort of 27% of app developers were expected to shut down just because they couldn't bring in the users that they really needed to bring in that revenue, drive that ROI and that ROAS from their user acquisition campaigns. So what does this look like for app developers now? So let's quickly sort of go back in time. So mid-2021, roughly, was when IDFA was originally deprecated. People knew it was coming, but no one really prepared for it as much as they probably should have. And the ones who did were the ones who got the early success. But the majority of people were sort of left a bit behind the curve in knowing what to do. So this resulted directly in a loss of own data to segment and target. You know, if you can't track the users, what they're doing within your app and what they're doing across the wider ecosystem, it's really difficult to know what to do. You know, what are they interested in, what are they spending their time doing, and what's resonating well with them. So this was for iOS campaigns specifically. So the result of this was that budget got moved to Android. So people moved all of their budgets away from iOS. They couldn't track the users. They couldn't track success. They were just sort of spending money blindly. So they moved all of their budget to Android temporarily, which then resulted in the Android targeting costs increasing significantly. Historically, targeting Apple was very expensive and targeting Android users was very cheap, and this completely switched. Wait, it didn't switch. iOS stayed expensive and Android also became more expensive. So, you know, it's something that people didn't know how to overcome. So they needed to keep their UA active, they needed to keep spending money to get users in their game, and they had to rely on Android and the expensive costs that were coming there. So you're spending more money on Android, it's really expensive to target, and getting that ROAS is really difficult. So the advertising platforms like Meta, TikTok, Snap, and all the others, Google, started to advertise that you should, sort of advise that you should just target your campaigns broadly. So instead of really breaking down and segmenting who you're targeting, just target everyone. So if you're looking to scale up UA in America, just target the whole of America, or just target really large cohorts of users. And, you know, it was good at the time to try and help reduce those costs. costs and keep giving you scale. But the problems that came with that was that there was a significant loss of data to influence future development. If you're acquiring 10,000 users from a campaign within the US that targeted broadly, all you know about those users is that they're 10,000 users from the US. That's all you know. You might get some creative insights into which creatives work well for them, but understanding the users, what they're interested in, and where they came from is non-existent. You know nothing about them. You just know that there's 10,000 users. So the main issue with these problems is that, AAA provided scale and low cost, but you don't get any data. Interest targeting as well is incredibly vague on Meta. If I'm friends with someone, all of the things I like, they suddenly like. It's a really, really loose term. If anyone has any spare time, I would definitely advise looking into your advertising preferences on Facebook. You'll be incredibly shocked by how many things you've never been interested in, you don't care about, and you never will care about, but Facebook believe you do. So go through it and definitely delete the ones that you don't care about, otherwise you'll keep getting advertisements from them. So future development became really hard because people didn't know what the users liked, what they were interested in, and what resonated well with them. So how do you sort of take back control of your user acquisition targeting? So there's been a big change in the industry, massive marketing challenge for user acquisition. And for apps that monetize via in-app purchases, this is so important to do. So what do you need? You need a compliant information source, so cookie and IDFA free, potentially Google Ad ID free soon when that finally comes to fruition. It needs to be GDPR and CCPA compliant. I think this sort of goes without saying, there's always new laws coming up about what data you can use, what you can't use, companies that you can work with, and making sure that everyone is completely compliant. So I think it's really important that you take this into account. And what we're providing is that purchase behavior targeting is a novel and reliable data source. So all of the audiences and data that we provide is first party to us. We only see it if we processed it. It doesn't rely on modeling multiple sources together or trying to use an algorithm to make judgments and make assumptions. It's a true data source. So yeah, again, not to be subjective or broad-based demographic or psychographic information. And 61% of app developers and marketers believe that purchase behavior targeting provides the solution to this. So what does Bango do? So how do we provide purchase behavior targeting at scale? So Bango is predominantly a payments processing platform. We've been around for roughly 20 years. We process a whole multitude of different payments. That's across in-app purchases, across the Google Play Store as an example. We process subscriptions for the likes of Netflix, and we process, Xbox Game Pass for console gamers. So we have a really good overview of people's different payments across a really wide ecosystem. So by analyzing this purchase data, it allows us to build custom audiences. So if we have a pool of, however million users, and we have a client that says, I'm really struggling with our UA in the USA, and we need to find more payers because we're just not driving the ROAS that we need, we can segment users into audiences that can be targeted to really help achieve these problems that people are having. So using these purchase behavior targeting techniques, you can scale your in-app purchases and see sort of very strong performance. So we're going to sort of break it down into a few different areas that we're helping our clients focus on and different things that you can do using Bango Audiences. So the first is probably the most obvious one. It's about targeting users who pay in similar apps to yours. People will be doing this all the time, whether you are using interest targeting or whatever it might be. If you're a casual game developer, you want to target your competitors because the users are interested in the genre, they're more likely to convert and provide value. So doing this, what we've allowed our clients to see, for example, is Upland. So Upland are a metaverse-based game. We've been working with them since they first launched, and being part of the metaverse, they're a property trading game, a virtual property trading game. They relied heavily on all of the users they needed that were coming into the platform. They needed to really drive those that ROAS and make those purchases. So using the Bango Audiences, we managed to provide 95% higher ROAS with our audiences, 37% lower CPA, and 34% lower average cost per unique purchaser. So you can target broadly, and you can target users that are never going to make a payment, but targeting users that are proven to pay in similar apps and products is a really great way to drive the returns. Another example, which you may have seen in the video just before I started speaking, was around NEXON. 3.9% higher ROAS, 3.6% higher lifetime value, and 25% lower CPI. So Really strong results just by doing the most basic thing and targeting people that have paid and are proven to have paid in your competitors or similar apps to yours. And a final example, TryWin, which is a social casino app developer, 50% increase in day 7 ROAS, 5% higher conversion rate, and 2 times higher lifetime value. So again, some really, really great results here and great case studies that we've managed to get, which can show the value of just targeting at the most basic level the competitors' players or people that played or paid in a similar category. So the second insight, it comes around trying to find new payers. You can target your competitors all the time, but eventually you're gonna run out of finding new users. So it's about targeting categories with a high overlap of payers. So what does this look like? We can see from our platform across all of the payments that we process that of 100% of people that have made a payment in an arcade game, that 60% of them also make payments in casual games. They're quite similar genres, so it might not be a massive surprise, but it immediately gives you another pool of users that are going to be highly relevant and more likely to convert for your campaigns. Another example, from 100% of that have made payments in brain training games, 57% of those have also made payments in metaverse games. So again, finding new pockets of payers with high overlapping categories. And then 70% of bubble shooter games also made payments in bingo games. So it's these unique insights that we're in a position to see that can help our partners to really drive and scale their in-app purchases by finding new pockets of payers. You can also target users based on the top 3. So if you have an arcade game, for example, we know that of this data, sorry, let's go back, there's a high crossover with dating apps, casual apps, and word games. So you can dig into some really interesting new areas of focus that we can help provide that data for. But again, this is only one data point. Same for finance apps. People also pay in adventure games, beauty apps, and action games. Some of these are not obvious, but we're in a really unique position that allow us to see these. And this is the data points that we help to provide to our partners. So moving into the third insight, it's focusing on the high LTV payment behaviors. There may be users that make one payment in one app for $1, and they never make a payment again. Although they would be a payer and they have the propensity to pay, you might need users, if you're an RPG developer, who make multiple payments, really high value payments over a long period of time. So what we can help you to do is break down the users that are making payments, how many payments they're making. So of all the payers in solitaire games, 20% of those make 7 or more payments per month. So again, this is really useful data. If you monetize and say, okay, on average, we get 3 purchases per month from our users. You might target a solitaire player game because they have the propensity to make 7 or more payments per month, so it can help drive that higher lifetime value, higher ROAS numbers. Another example, within casual games, 28% make 5 or more payments per month. And within Webtoon apps, 30% make 4 or more payments per month. So again, we're in a really unique position. You can come to us, tell us what your game is, let us know a little bit more information about the genre that you're in, and we can provide some really unique data insights into what users are doing across a much wider ecosystem. So then the next part is about, okay, well, what if I want to bring this all together? Okay, so I know that people pay in word games, I know people pay in trivia apps, and they also play in action games if I'm an adventure game developer. But within the word games, you can see there's 10 plus purchases and spent over $300. Within trivia, it's 6 purchases, so less, and only spent $50. And within action games, on average, people made 20 purchases and spent $270 or more. So you can start to break down your strategy for user acquisition by looking into these different areas. If you monetize off of a very high volume of payments, if you take Candy Crush, for example, people are constantly buying lives so they can keep playing, but it might only be very low value payments. Then you might look into a certain area, but in this case, you might want users that are making a lot of purchases and spending considerable amount, so action games could be a really great audience for you to target and scale your user acquisition strategy. So the third insight is around layering those purchase behavior targeting. So everything we've spoken about when it comes down to, looking at apps within your category or your competitors at the most basic level. You then go a bit broader as you're scaling out a bit further, looking into crossover and overlapping category audiences. Then you look at the high LTV payment behaviors. So then you have a full strategy around how you're going to acquire users, who you need to target to get the maximum returns. And it's a very simple way that we can do this. You find the right audiences in each category, you can use them in your campaigns across social platforms. So then we go one level further. So you've got all of these great insights, these great audiences that we can provide to you. How do you maximize the success from targeting them? You know, running UA on social platforms is changing all the time. There's new best practices, there's new, ways to target and get the maximum return. But how do you do that? So as we're in a unique position, we work with lots of partners and we can aggregate the data to say, for example, if you're a word game developer and you're targeting a word game audience and you want to expand the audience that we've provided to a lookalike audience, which lookalike percentage do you go with? Is it 1%, 5%, 10%? It's a bit of a black box for you guys because it's hard to know which is going to drive the most return. What we can do is average out this data and say, in this example here, that the high likelihood is you want the really high click-through rate, so the high box, which you'll see comes from a 10% lookalike, which is also driving the lowest CPI. So this is a great area to target initially because you're going to get really low costs and really high conversion rates from a 10% word audience. It might not always be the most obvious one. So you might think that, well, a 1% lookalike is going to drive, it's closest to the seed audience, so it should drive the most relevancy, but it doesn't in this case. Another example when it comes to puzzle games, if you're a puzzle game developer targeting a puzzle audience, you've got a multitude of up to 10, sometimes even 20% lookalikes. Where do you focus your efforts? And in this case, a 3% drives the highest click-through rate and the lowest CPI massively compared to all of the others. So again, a really great insight that can help you to get the most from your campaigns. And the final example comes within bingo games. Again, it's the 10% lookalike in this case that is driving the highest click-through rate and the lowest CPI. So really great insights that can help maximize your social performance. And we can provide this across all of our partners, whether it's a geo, whether it's a specific category. It's data that we can provide and help you to see the best performance possible. So just to sort of recap on everything, one, purchase behavior targeting is a powerful solution to take back control of your UA. It's a true first-party data source that we can provide that isn't reliant on algorithms or machine learning or anything like that to make assumptions on users. It's only based on fact and truth. Two is that consumers and developer friendly. This is one of the most important things. We're always having to overcome changes to this industry, and privacy and everything like that is probably at the forefront of that. There's always new laws, new changes that we have to adhere to. So making sure that it's safe for you guys and safe for us to target these users puts us in a really unique position. You don't need cookies, you don't need IDFA. In many cases, the identifier that we use internally is a mobile phone number, which puts us in a massively unique position because we still get really high match rates to the social platforms, and we're not reliant on these identifiers that are being deprecated all around the ecosystem. And then it's about sort of the key purchase behavior targeting strategies. So similar apps to yours, high crossover categories and high LTV payment behaviors, and then we can help you to get the most from those audiences that you are targeting. So that's everything from me, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'd love to answer.
Why I suggest this, because we are running quite behind in this track.
No problem.
Is why don't people find you on Meet to Match, which you are right now?